Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 175A.
I'm Cam and this is Julie. This week's Torah portion, we're crossing the Red Sea.
Nice.
All right, so we are looking at Exodus 13:17 to the end of, no. To the end of chapter 17.
Yes, because I remember when you posted 13:17 through 17, I was like, how does that work? Because it was to chapter 17. I missed that.
Oh, yeah, look at it's not even a verse.
Yeah.
Half a verse. 17a and 17b.
Right,
okay.
right.
Anyway.
Well, if you would like to check out some of our past Doc Talks on this subject, it is, you can check them out. They're 29 A and B, 80 A and B, and 130 A and B. Just A.
We struggle with that all the time. All right, so just
do
A.
B last.
That's right.
Last year.
And let me tell you, I listened to some of them. I'm like, oh, that's really good.
Every week you say
every
that.
Week, because I do, and every week I'm like, that was good stuff. And I go make notes again. I'm like, oh yeah. Because I can only hold so much in the front part of the brain. Otherwise, it gets filed in the back, and you pull it up when you need it.
It's true.
It's called giving the Holy Spirit ammunition. That's why sometimes if you think, God, the Lord can't use me, I don't have anything I can say. If you will study, right, then the Lord will go like, woo, remember that? Woo, remember that? And then He'll give it to you whenever you need it.
So He's like your search engine.
Yeah. He was way before Google ever existed.
Right.
I love it. Okay, so I thought we would look at Exodus 13. And I kind of thought it was interesting how these two is juxtaposition the correct phrase? I believe it is. That's what we're going to use and pretend it is right if it's not. So chapter 13 talks about firstborn. Okay, so it's talking all about the firstborn and how the firstborn is dedicated to the Lord and the Lord wants the firstborn, and we see how in the Passover the Egyptians were taken as basically a substitute, right? The Lord's like, that's fine, I'll take the Egyptians and then you guys will be freed. Right. Now He's requesting that we better do it.
Well, it's probably a requirement.
Yeah, require. Oh, that's a better word. Requires of us now to give our firstborn. Because again, He did preserve us. And here's the cool thing. While He's requiring it of us, He gives it right back.
Right.
It's not like He's ripping our children from our hands. He's like, yeah, now I'm going to make sure that I protect them just like, because they're mine. Right. I mean, why wouldn't you want to say, I would like my child to belong to the Lord. Why wouldn't you want that? Look at Hannah. Look at people through the Bible who long to have a first child. Just give it to the Lord.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then in 13 down in verse, let's see what it is, verse 19, it says, and Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, for he certainly made the children of Israel swear, saying, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring my bones from here with you. Now, we talked about this in the past, how we have Israel leaves, we have an empty tomb, right? Mm-hmm. And Moses, the one who's the Lord's using to lead them out, is the one who got the bones.
Right.
So we have Moses and we have Joseph. We have Joseph in the servant side. Mm-hmm. Then we have Moses, and then we have Joshua this week, and that's kind of the battle side. And then we have this Moses in between. It's just kind of the progression of Messiah. So anyway, what I thought was neat was Joseph is the firstborn.
I was going to say, well, that makes perfect sense because when Yeshua came the first time, you have the servant, mm-hmm. and then when He comes, He'll have the Joshua, the battle. Right. But in the middle, we have Moses,
right,
to teach us.
Exactly, I love it. And Moses taught from the mount, right?
Right.
Or not, well, yeah, he did from Mount Sinai. And Messiah teaches from the mount when He returns. Mm-hmm. And remember, He taught when He was here, so there's that's kind of paired together. But anyway, so I thought it was neat because Joseph, all the J's, help me out here, people. Joseph is the firstborn of Rachel's.
Oh, yeah.
So Joseph would have been dedicated to the Lord. Okay. And then I thought about the battle that the brothers had with Joseph and Reuben and then all these sons messed up, how he ended up getting the inheritance of the firstborn. Here we already know that Israel is seen as the firstborn by the Lord. We know that from chapter 4 of Exodus. And I just think that's something that we can easily overlook. I hadn't noticed it till this year, about the firstborn and Joseph working together. Now, we may have talked about this before, the Olive Tav, but we're going to connect it with something else. So in chapter 14 of Exodus, verse 13, this is after they've been afraid, they've looked up, and they're now looking on the Lord, and the Lord, it tells Moses what he's going to do. It says, and Moses said to the people, do not be afraid, stand still and see the deliverance of Yahweh. And that deliverance has a olive tav in front of it. So that's pointing to Messiah. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is because I want to go over to chapter 17 now. As we talked about, I think it was last year, chapter 17 is where we have the introduction of Joshua.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that right, Jay. On Joshua. And in chapter 10, verse 10, it says, 9, it says, and Moses said to Joshua, choose for us men and go out, fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I am stationing myself on top of the hill with the rod of Elohim in my hand. All right, so this is the first time we've ever seen Joshua. Mm-hmm. But what's interesting is, if we go to Numbers 13, I believe it's verse 8, and it says, and the tribe of Ephraim, and it doesn't say Joshua, it says Joshua, the son of Nun. All right, so here he's being chosen, and we're learning what his name was. It was Joshua. So it doesn't have the yod at the beginning. But when we go down to verse 16, it says, these are the names of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses called Joshua, the son of Nun, Joshua. Can't say it right. Anyway, so what's interesting is there's actually 2 letters that have been added to his name. All right, so let's go back to Exodus again, Exodus 17. The 2 letters that are added to Joshua's name is the yod at the beginning, the hand of God, but there's also a vav, which is the nail. So literally what's added to his name, not the olive tav, but it's the yod vav. It's the hand and the nail.
The beginning of Yahweh.
Yes, and it's the hand and the nail part.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh my gosh, here again we're seeing a clue in the written text of this, the characteristics, again, pointing to Messiah, okay? So I just wanted to point that out, that in the Hebrew we have 2 contextual hints to the olive tav and then this yod vav idea of showing who the characteristics of Joshua that are going to match Messiah. We have Joshua in the very beginning already involved, again, as a characteristic of Messiah, yeah.
Well, and it's funny because it's the hand and the nail that allows Yeshua to be the Joshua.
Ooh, that's
Does
good.
that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Because had he not died, then he wouldn't have risen again to be the conqueror.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. So where we have show the deliverance, where it's the olive tav, he had to complete that deliverance before fighting.
Right.
Like that.
So it tells who he is and how he does it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Joshua.
Okay.
You know, we see Joshua in a few places. We see him here in the battle, and then we don't see him again until Exodus 24. That's where he goes up a little bit further with Moses. And then when Moses is coming down, when he's hearing the noise, when he comes down, it's Joshua who's like, oh, there's this noise. I mean, so he stayed up there. Joshua stayed up there the same time as Moses did.
Wow.
Then we have in, I think it's Exodus 32, where he goes into the tent and he doesn't leave. Right. Moses goes in and out to deal with the people, but not Joshua, because he's preparing. He's preparing. From the very beginning, he's been put in place to prepare, even though we don't really understand it. You ever watch a movie and then by the end you're like, oh my gosh. And then you go back and watch it again and you're like, oh, you see all the little hints being given. That's what Joshua is. There's all these hints. And we have another hint in chapter 17. And it's in 17:14. It says, and Yahweh said to Moses. Now, this is the instruction from Yahweh to Moses the leader. But listen to it. It says, write this for remembrance in the book. In the book. There's the Torah. Okay. And recite it in the hearing of Joshua, that I shall completely blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under the heavens. Now, think about this. Joshua just defeated Amalek. So to him, it's already been done. Yet there needs to be a book in which Joshua is commanded to read that says, I'm going to remove him from completely under heaven. I mean, hello, this is absolutely foreshadowing. Yeah, I like that better. Not like foreshadowing for the Joshua to come. And we talked about this in previous years about how Messiah himself is reading this and going, it will happen. There is the promise. There is the promise. So we have right here where again, there's a book that he has to remember. Now let's go look at Deuteronomy 32. And this is actually going to be the perfect segue into my next part that I want to discuss. In Deuteronomy 32 is the other song of Moses per se, okay? And it's going to be in verse 44. It says, then Moses came with Hoshua. Isn't this interesting? It's not Joshua.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the hand and the nail in it, okay? It says, the son of Nun, and spoke all the words of this song in the hearing of the people. Okay, so let's read that again. Then Moses came with Joshua, son of Nun, and spoke all the words of the song in the hearing of the people. Wait a minute. So Moses and Joshua are teaching the children together.
Oh, okay.
But here's what's interesting. To me, okay, this is just one of those things I think are tucked in the word. This is without the added gift of the hand of God and added protection. This is a man who is working to learn the word and then is teaching. We can't go, oh yeah, but he has this divine touch. He's supernatural. No, almost to me going, look, this man who's going to be a leader is a leader, and a part of it is because he learned my word.
Yeah.
Because he gave himself the ammunition for me to use.
Right.
So it's just so interesting that the first time he's talked about, it's Joshua, and then almost the last time he's talked about, it's in this man form. And then we know he's already been selected, obviously, to go and take them in. Joshua goes to take them in, right? But in Joshua 1, it says, Joshua 1:7, it says, only be strong and courageous to guard and do all of the Torah, which Moses, my servant, commanded, this is the Lord, commanded you. Do not turn to the right or left, that you act wisely wherever you go. And do not let this book of the Torah depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it and imitate it day and night, so that you guard to do according to all that is written in it. For then you shall make your way prosperous and act wisely. Okay, so this is a great segue. Joshua's heart was to make sure that they knew the word, they learned the word, and that was his sword, that was his shield, that was every single part of it. So now let's go look at Exodus. You can probably hear my paper rattling. Exodus 15:1. I'm terrible at giving the verse before the chapter. Then Moses and the children of Israel sang this song to Yahweh and spoke, saying, I will sing to Yahweh, for he is highly exalted. The horse and the rider he is thrown into the sea. Because it says, I sang, or I will sing, as one voice.
Okay.
Well, think about it in Acts. What happens in Acts? Is it Acts 2? The Holy Spirit comes down?
Yes.
Yeah. And they were...
On the Jews.
Yes. And it says that they were... as one. They were as one.
As one mind.
As one mind. Okay. So here they come through. There is one mind. They're all, or one voice. But notice up in 14, the last verse, because I don't think we should separate this. And that's in verse 31. It says, and Israel saw the great works which Yahweh had done in Egypt. And the people feared Yahweh and believed Yahweh and his servant Moses. Okay, now they believe. They're all in one, and now they sing this song.
Yeah.
But the idea that's suggested is that they will sing, and that song isn't completed. Okay. Now, we touched on this last year about the idea Rabbi Shapira makes the comment about the song being it starts in Exodus and it ends in Revelation.
Right. I remember
and
that.
it's all one voice together. And I want to bring this up. There are 10 songs in the Bible that are spoken of. And, there's the Song of Deborah, Song of Hannah, Song of Moses, Song of David, Song of, there's some others. Solomon, yeah, Solomon has one. All of these are called the deliverance songs. They're all deliverance, all salvation. Well, isn't that the whole point?
Yes.
So when we are said to be able to come together, when we today, our future, whenever it is, come together to get that where we all believe in not just Yahweh, but his servant, which requires the Torah. And if you think about that, Joshua knew the word. He didn't let go of the Torah.
Right.
So when we grab a hold, Jew, Gentile, grab a hold of the Torah and we can speak in one voice, then Revelation 15 will happen.
Yeah.
We'll be able to all sing in one voice. We'll be able to complete the song, and then we'll be able to sing the song of Messiah. But if we don't learn the word of God, we're not going to know the words. And not only that, if we don't believe in Torah, when we hear the words, we'll be like, well, that's old. That can't be Messiah's song.
Yep.
So
True.
I suggest that you really dig in and really
learn the word.
Right. And again, it doesn't have to be memorizing. It has to be providing a vessel to hold the word so that he can pull it out when it's the right time. In season, right? What is that word? To be ready in and out of season. And we do that by the word.
Yeah. And it's so important to get together and do it together.
Absolutely.
Like Malachi talks about, every time you get together and speak about the Torah, about the word.
Right. Yeah.
He writes it down in a book.
That's right. That's right. And iron sharpens iron, people.
That's right.
That's why you stay sharp.
That's right.
All right. So we thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you have a fantastic week. And we'll see you on the flip side with Julie and X.
Shalom.